Alright, what is up YouTube? Today we got a special video talking about Spider-Man No Way Home and how it actually affects anime live action. Now I know what you're thinking. How does the new Spider-Man movie have anything to do with anime live action? And I'm not gonna lie. The truth is, I just wanted to talk about this film because I saw it opening night, and after seeing it, not a day goes by I don't think about this movie. Oh, I just want to see it 10,000 more times. Oh my god. But anyway, aside from the One Punch Man live action being made by the same people that make the new Venom movies, I think there are a lot of valid points that I'd like to bring up in regards to anime live action when it comes to this movie. And what better way to illustrate my arguments than to use the newly released blockbuster comic book Marvel Disney film? Am I right? Or should I say, what better excuse to talk about this movie because I'm so in love with it. Anyways, if you haven't seen it for some reason, please go watch it, but don't worry, I'm not gonna spoil the movie, you know what I'm saying? You know, we're not on our Kim Kardashian today, you know what I'm saying? But anyways, I am going to be making a separate video that's just gonna be one of my discussion videos where I just go off and I talk about all the things I want to talk about in this movie, and that video is gonna have spoilers. So if you guys are interested in my review or what I thought or other thoughts and just my general love and life story with this character, then please go check that one out. But as I said, with this video we are gonna talk about how this movie relates to anime live action. So ever since the trailer came out for this movie, you know, I think a lot of people have brought up the argument, right? Or the question, if you will, of, you know, who is their favorite Spider-Man? Who do you think plays Peter Parker? Who do you think plays Spider-Man the best out of all the live action iterations of this character? And you know, between the three, Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, and Tom Holland, you know, there's countless debates, countless arguments, etc., right? And it really all comes down to preference, you know, whatever. But what got me thinking is, you know, we can't have this conversation when it comes to anime and anime live action, and we probably never will be able to have this conversation simply because of the fact that whenever an anime live action gets announced or actually gets released, everyone hates it. And it's not even so much that the adaptation itself is bad or terrible, but it's the fact that most people don't want the anime live action to exist in the first place. The anime community, the anime fan base as a whole, we are gatekeeping. We are gatekeeping anime from becoming live action, from being interpreted into other forms of art, into other media. And that is kind of what's holding us back from ever having conversations like that, or ever having more for our anime or for our favorite series being made, you know, being brought back into relevancy. And it just kind of sucks. It kind of makes me sad because, you know, it's like the anime community itself is holding itself back. It's weird because, you know, for a while, for a long time, you know, back in the day when I was getting into anime, it was not cool to like anime. It was not cool at all. But, you know, I loved it and I didn't care what anyone thought about me or what I like. And nowadays, anime is so popular. It's so everywhere, and you know, everyone's starting to give it a chance, which is great. I'm really happy. You know, it still kind of makes me a little upset because, you know, your boy was getting kind of bullied for the same thing. But you know, it's okay. It's okay. You know, now that everyone's starting to kind of normalize anime and popularize it into our, you know, everyday life and pop culture, it's just kind of funny how we're still holding on so tight to something that a lot of people are just getting into. And I feel like before people popularized anime, the only thing that was really, you know, making everyone excited was, you know, were these Hollywood big budget $1 million movies, right? That would come out in the theaters. We would all go see it, you know, and that was the thing. And then, you know, COVID hit and kind of forced everyone to stay home, and now I guess maybe that's, you know, a big play into why everyone started getting into anime and such. But, you know, it kind of sucks that we can't ever think to be excited to see an anime character being portrayed on the big screen because, you know, all these people that are quote unquote fans of anime just won't even allow that to happen from word of mouth even. And, you know, speaking on the subject of Cowboy Bebop, I have not watched Cowboy Bebop yet. I know I'm terrible. I need to get on it. I apologize. I will get that review video to you guys as soon as I can. But as of right now, I haven't seen it yet. Although, even though I've seen a fair amount of people, saying it's really bad. I mean, a lot of people comment on my videos saying that it's, bad and they ruined it, blah, 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 blah. I've actually run into a lot of people, just outside, kind of going around shopping or whatever. And, people always recognize me and they say, oh my God, I love your mask, because I have different anime masks, when I go out and stuff. And, I've actually talked with a few of those people and they're like, oh, did you see the new Cowboy Bebop? And they're actually fans of the show. And they're like, yeah, I really like the show and it got me into Cowboy Bebop the anime, and now I'm watching anime and stuff like that. And I'm like, oh, wow. So there are people that do like the show that, are getting into anime now because of the show. And, I feel like the anime community doesn't even see that because they're so focused on, oh, it's bad, it's not the anime, that they can't even see the good, the potential that these live action adaptations can do for anime, for manga, for this medium as a whole, So that's why it makes me sad. One day I would really like to have that conversation of like, who played Goku the best, or who played Ichigo or Luffy or Naruto the best, like that would just be so cool. Like, don't get me wrong, I love Spider-Man. Really, really love this character, and I had forgotten how much I love this character, until I went to actually go see No Way Home. But again, I will talk more about that in my discussion video, so if you want to hear more about that, definitely go check that out. But anyways, I would love to debate about anime characters and them being portrayed on the big screen with other people, combining two of my favorite forms of art together, obviously anime being more beloved, being my favorite of the two, of any. But nonetheless, I'm an anime kind of guy. I love anime to death, a lot more than comics. I'm not really a comic guy, to be honest. I like Spider-Man. I think Spider-Man kind of transcends comic books, but that's just me. But anime is more my alley, right? So I would really love to have that conversation, but we can never have that if, we're gatekeeping anime. So why do we gatekeep anime? Why is it that, every time an anime live action gets announced, everyone is so upset? Everyone is so like, oh my God, it's gonna be trash, it's gonna be trash. Here's what I've come to realize after seeing No Way Home. One of the things I think definitely holds back a lot of anime fans from getting on board with anime live action is the look of a lot of the characters and how they transition from their anime manga look into being translated onto the big screen, into live action, right? And No Way Home kind of got me thinking, I mean, you see in the trailer, so this isn't a spoiler, but you see in the trailer Electro, right? And I was thinking about it and I was like, a lot of people complain about the look of, these anime characters and how they would look on the big screen. But like, when we think about, a lot of these characters and these comic book characters that have come to the big screen, some of them didn't look all that great in their comic book iteration. I mean, I'm gonna show a picture of Electro's costume in the comic book and show what he looks like, on the big screen, and like, let you guys come to your own conclusions. But it's like, bro, if they went with how he looked in the comic book with that spandex like tights and like the little like lightning bolt star on his forehead, I mean, like, that's just too goofy, man. And you're expected to believe that someone is just going to become evil and dress up like that and like terrorize cities, like, and also be electricity. Like, it's that's ridiculous, bro. Like, come on. Like, there's no way that you would take, the movie, well, I'll just, say Amazing Spider-Man 2, because that's the movie Electro was in for the first, his first appearance, his first iteration on the big screen. There's no way people would take him as a villain seriously if he dressed like that. If he just all of a sudden was like, you know what, I'm going to design my costume to look just like, like, it just doesn't work. Like, that's why these live action movies are kind of, they're supposed to have some form of reality grounded to the idea, the concept, the story. And it's not that these costumes can't be made or that these, things wouldn't translate well into live action. It's just that, they would definitely alter our suspense of belief. And, it's kind of like, do I really think that this character, being this villainous, being this way that he is going to design a costume like, you know what I'm saying? Like, or wear this, in this day and age. And it's just no, like, it just doesn't work. It just does not work. And that's part of what makes a good movie is, you have to make things work for that movie, for that iteration. And sometimes they will be different from the comic or from whatever's being adapted. But for that movie, if it can work, if it can make you believe that that's what that character would do, and everything feels right, you're not questioning anything, then the filmmakers have done their job. They've done their job. It may look a little different, but at least you believe, hey, I think, okay, that's how he would probably look. You know what I mean? As opposed to like having yourself question, wait, why does he look so goofy? Why does he look so ridiculous? You know what I'm saying? I mean, look at Doc Ock, another prime example. In the comic books, he had like this green, yellow, like unitard, like it's, and don't get me wrong, they did Spider-Man's costume very well, and all iterations that he's ever been in on the big screen. But they took a whole movie to kind of build it up and make it make sense as to why he has this costume. At least they did for Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield's iterations. But I like the way Doc Ock looks on the big screen, and it is different from how he looks in the comics, but it works. It really does. And I think that seeing No Way Home, seeing the trailer, it's like, oh, we can appreciate him returning, having that classic look as this in the same look that he had in Spider-Man 2, even though both of those looks are not the same as the comics. They are very different. I think a look can be very iconic, but it can also be very challenging translating to the big screen. And I think a lot of people get a little too butthurt sometimes when it comes to that. By the way, I did make a video called My Top 5 Challenges for Making a Good Anime Live Action, where I talk more about looks and other things. I mean, it's literally called My Top 5 Challenges. So if you want to know more about what I think are the hardest things for making a good anime live action, definitely go check that out. But anyway, back to Spider-Man and these Marvel movies. Another thing that always kind of, was on my mind, and this is a little bit off topic, but Wolverine, X-Men, you always see, like in Marvel vs. Capcom and other, Wolverine comics and iterations, he's got the yellow spandex and the little, black eye things, right? But you never see him in that costume, like in the movies, right? And there's a reason for that. I mean, look at Hugh Jackman, look at Wolverine's character. He's a hard ass, he's a badass, he's, tough. Do you honestly think that man is ever going to be caught dead wearing some yellow the costume that is Wolverine? You know what I'm saying? And no. Does that mean they made a bad iteration of this character on the big screen, of the portrayal of this character on the big screen? No, absolutely not. I think Hugh Jackman has done an amazing job playing the role of Wolverine, and I honestly can't see anyone else doing it. I mean, really, really incredible performance, and one that will be immortalized in cinema, in history, because the filmmakers decided, well, this doesn't really fit the character. We're not gonna try and keep everything 100% accurate to the comic books if it just doesn't make sense, And when you think about it too, like come on, bro. Like, if you're gonna complain about like, oh my god, Electro, he just doesn't look like his comic book iteration with tights and spandex, and I can't get behind the movie. It's like, dude, come on, like, you sound like a nerd, bro. Like, why do we have to sound like that, like, when it comes to our anime? Now, I get it. We want our anime characters to look the way they should. We have to consider if it makes sense for the film. And I think that's what a lot of people don't do. Is that they watch these anime, they consume these comics, but they don't watch films. They don't really know anything about movies, maybe other than the few comic book movies they've seen. But, you know, film is a different form of art, and you know, to make a good one, it's about more than just, you know, copy and pasting from a different form of art, from a different media. It's so much more than that. So also, we cannot forget, we can never forget the fact that comic book movies sucked. They sucked. They were garbage back in the day. Before there was Tom Holland, before there was Andrew Garfield, before there was Tobey Maguire, there was actually another Spider-Man you guys may never have even heard of, never even seen before, or maybe you have seen it and just erased it from your memory, but I'm gonna play a clip right now. But yes, Spider-Man looked like this before he ever got to the way he is now. Not just Spider-Man, but other comic book movies were just so bad, man, so bad. They were garbage, bro. Because, you know, Hollywood filmmakers, they didn't understand how comic book characters could work in live action, in cinema. And it's only, you know, till Marvel really found its footing, really found its ground with the MCU, that, you know, now we can kind of expect Marvel movies to come out and kind of, you know, be good and everyone to generally be pleased, right? But again, we can't forget that back then, back in the day, that was not the case, man. Sometimes these superhero movies come out and they were just garbage. So yeah, we have to take that in the same way with these anime live action films. You know, anime is still finding its ground in cinema, in live action, and we can't just expect it to come out and magically be good. But we also can't expect them to go anywhere and actually get good if all we do is complain, if all we do is want them to be bad so that we can not have any more of them come out. We have to use our criticism positively. And I think it's hard because a lot of times I feel like I'm the only one that wants anime live action to be a thing. But in my case, I already know anime live action is gonna be a thing. These live action adaptations of anime are coming out regardless of what you or what I or what anyone wants. Like, these films, these shows, these Netflix shows, they're happening, bro. They are happening. Nothing we say or do is gonna stop them from coming out. So we might as well make them good, you know? We might as well stop complaining and make them good, or at least see the good in them. Another thing that's been on my mind too is the fact that I think a lot of movies and these kind of adaptations, not just anime, but other comic book and like Spider-Man movies specifically, have aged over time and aged very well. I actually recently just kind of rewatched the Amazing Spider-Man movies with Andrew Garfield, and I forgot how great of a Spider-Man he was. And I think the first movie especially aged very well. And it's one of those things where I think, especially with this release of No Way Home, is that even though I didn't really have fond memories of those movies, now that we got a movie like No Way Home, where it's like, oh, you see villains from other like iterations of Spider-Man in it, in the trailer, I'm like, wow, I kind of, you know, want to go back and watch those movies now. And now those movies have like value and meaning to me because I did watch them when they came out. And for some reason, I just, you know, kind of had a bad taste in my mouth with them, you know, in my memories. But now I go back and I'm like, wait, no. And even if they're not the best or the, you know, the best written or whatever, like, I still have nostalgia for them. I still really appreciate them and really enjoy seeing Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man because he's really great. And I just forgot about that because of the other problems with, you know, the second movie. But that's okay, you know. So I think that kind of is also the case for anime live actions. I think that anime live actions will age over time, and I think if they eventually just stop making anime live actions, I think the ones that we have will age over time, and they'll probably age pretty well because, you know, sometimes when something comes out, you know, no one's really messing with it, but over time, like, sometimes you just gotta let it sit, you know, you just gotta leave it alone for a little bit, and then when it actually has, you know, all the hype and all the attention away from it, people will give it the attention it deserves or appreciate it for what it was supposed to be. And I really think that anime live action will get to that point one day whether, you know, they keep trying or not. But yeah, that's also something that's kind of been on my mind after seeing No Way Home. Alright, so the last thing I kind of want to mention and talk about is Tom Holland as Peter Parker and Spider-Man, because another thing that, you know, I started to think about after seeing this movie is the fact that Tom Holland's Peter Parker is a lot different from, you know, the other iterations of Peter Parker and Spider-Man on the big screen. And, you know, his other movies have just, he's always been different. You know, there was no, there was an MJ, but it's not, you know, Mary Jane. It's different, right? And I just feel like, you know, Tom Holland's Peter Parker isn't really necessarily the Peter Parker that we know and love, or that we have known and loved the past two iterations, right? And that's one of the reasons why, for me personally, I've never really been able to gravitate towards his Spider-Man, or at least his story as the character, at least until, you know, after this movie. But that's just me. I know a lot of people have, and my question is, why is that, right? Like, why is it that we can accept Tom Holland's Spider-Man having a completely different story than, you know, than the Peter Parker that we all know and love, right? And the Peter Parker that has been Spider-Man the past other two iterations, but yet we can't, like, have that same mindset when it comes to anime and anime live action, right? Yeah, like, we can accept Tom Holland's Spider-Man has a lot of changes, but I feel like when it comes to anime and live action, if there's even one slightly small hint of a change, then everyone is getting out their pitchforks and ready to burn Hollywood. And it's like, I remember looking at Twitter the other day, and I saw, you know, people were really angry that the one pregnant lady in Cowboy Bebop, she was like a different race or whatever. I think she was supposed to be Spanish or Puerto Rican. I can't exactly remember. But in the live action adaptation, they made her British, I believe. And again, don't quote me on that. I still haven't actually seen it yet. But that's what I remember gathering from the Twitter post, right? And people were upset about that. You know, here's the thing. Part of me is like, I really understand that. Like, I understand the importance of diversity and the fact that, you know, for years, for a long time, the big screen has only been shared by, you know, a lot of white people. You know, the limelight has always been shared by white people, and I understand the importance of other races finally getting their chance to break into that limelight, and I am all for it. I am all here for it, right? Like, I completely understand that. However, I'm also kind of like, bro, who cares? Like, okay, it's not that I don't want them to accurately represent the character. It's just that, you know, if the show is bad, it's gonna be bad regardless of if they change the race of one character. A side character at that, mind you. But just because they do change the race, that does not make the show bad. You know what I mean? I feel like people were already trying to hate this series, and that just gave them, you know, an out. That just gave them a reason to complain about it. But that, like, them changing the race of one character does not make the show bad. Of a side character, again, it doesn't make the show bad. So you can't be like, oh, the show's bad because they did that, you know what I mean? And again, I want to remind you all that when it comes to choosing an actor, actress, casting, you know, race and all that really doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can say, hey, I want this character to be this race specifically. But then at that point, I mean, you're being more racist than, you know, not choosing, you know what I'm saying? Like, when it comes to casting, it's about who can play the role the best, right? Race, all that doesn't really matter. Yes, there are certain things when it comes to, like, okay, this character's got to be black, you know, like Black Panther, that makes sense, right? You can't have a white Black Panther. But, you know, for a side character, like, are we really gonna kill someone, gonna shoot someone at Hollywood because they changed the race of a side character? You know, like that's what it's like, come on, bro. Again, I talk a lot more about this in my top 5 challenges for making a good anime live action video. But yeah, I mean, like, we need to lose this hostility, this hostile attitude when it comes to anime live actions. because again, if we don't, we will never get to that point of something like, No Way Home. And I know before I said, well, yeah, comic book movies sucked back then, because they did suck. They really sucked. You saw the clip of the first Spider-Man, right? But look where we are now. Look at how we started, and look at where we've gotten to a movie like No Way Home. I mean, I saw No Way Home in the theaters, and I'm not gonna lie, it was amazing. It was the first time, well, first off, it was the first time I've been to a theater in a few years. But secondly, it was the first time I felt like a kid again watching a movie. And it blew my mind, man. Like, it was such a great experience. I don't think as a movie, I mean, obviously I watch a lot of films. I'm in the film industry working. As a movie, it didn't have the most like artistic integrity or anything like that. It's still a Disney comic book movie. But it was the first time in a long time where I felt like, watching it, I felt like a kid again. I felt like watching this movie felt like a dream come true to me, because it felt like, all the Spider-Man movies I've seen up till then, ever since the beginning. Like when I was like a 5-year-old watching the first Spider-Man in the movies. And then Spider-Man 2 and 3, when those eventually came out for the rest of my elementary school years. And then the Amazing Spider-Man movies, when those finally came out when I was in high school. And, it was crazy and cool to see, because, it's like, oh my God, Spider-Man, he's back on the big screen. And, it was Andrew Garfield playing him, so it was like a new style, new look, new actor. And, he did really great, and it was just kind of fun to see and celebrate, and it was great. And then the Tom Holland movies, even though I never did gravitate towards them as much, they were still there for me in my college years. So it was like, this character has been there all the way till this movie. Somehow I was able to have that same feeling, like a 5-year-old watching Spider-Man on the big screen. And it's crazy. I never thought that a movie experience would make me feel that way, but it did. And like I said, it felt like a dream come true, man. It really felt like a dream come true, and I'm so happy this movie exists. And I want to create that same feeling. I want to make that dream come true for someone else, for another kid one day, but with anime instead of comic books, because anime is my thing. So I want to do that, and I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. It's going to be a lot of hard work and a lot of effort, and a lot of people telling me I'm not going to do it, I can't do it. But if you've seen any video on this channel, you know how passionate, how dedicated I am to making anime live action a thing, making it good. And are Hollywood anime adaptations great right now? No. But, if they hire your boy, what I'm saying? I legitimately do think that one day we will get to that point where they are good, especially if, I'm in charge of them. But we've got a long way to go till then. So, like I said, I'm not giving up. And yeah, this movie honestly just made me not want to give up even more. So, if you have not seen the movie already, please do yourself a favor and go see it. But with that being said, if you want to support me in making my dream come true, please subscribe to your boy. Leave a like on the video. It helps me out a ton. Share the video with your friends, with other Spider-Man movie watchers, anyone. Any amount of love and support shown helps a ton, and I really appreciate you guys so much, so much. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And until then, I'll see you guys in the next video.